when you go in and you say, I'm going to take this on, what's like one of the first things you do to try to kind of bring you into this project and still be true to the source material? What is it, how do you first start wrapping your arms around a project?
You want to start with somebody else, or I mean,
Sure, we can start on the. We'll
I
start
can
in the middle.
answer.
Nick.
I mean,
You're so good.
well, you know, I'll just say.
He's like, can I have a little bit of time to think about it once in a while? That's
I'm just
what he's
thinking about
saying.
it. Well, exactly, while you were asking that question, I was starting to get a little tense, and I was thinking, well, how am I going to answer this? And that's what I do when I first work on a project. Is like you don't work out of tension, right? You go in and you're sort of open, and you go, well, who am I working with? And you meet the people you're working with, and hopefully you have a table read, and then you sit down and for me, I don't want to come to the table with a complete polished performance. I want to be just sort of open to, you know, they say acting is listening. So I want to, if I'm working with this guy and he's saying words to me, I want to be open to how he's saying it to me, and I want to respond to him. So I don't want to go in with any preconceived note like, oh, I'm going to say this evil lie this way, and they're going to, you know. And, you know, as we move forward, everything gets more and more, I mean, some projects you work on, people are like, they're not even acting. You go, what are you doing? Like, you turn up and they're just like, are we like working together? Like, but yeah, so that's what I would say is just, and I got that from my theater training. That's the only, I don't use all of the techniques that I learned, but that's one thing that I realized. If I start getting tense and I'm just relax, look at what's on the page, look at the other actor, and just pretend like it's happening. That's it.
Well, for me, it's different because in every movie there's pre-production, production, and post-production. So I'm a post-production guy. So the movie's already been shot, it's been pretty much edited, and for me, I get to watch the movie one time before I work on it. And then from then on, I'm pulling it apart. I'm not having the experience anymore. I'm like crafting. So it's just sitting down and being in the audience in an early version, and then hoping that maybe a year from now I can watch it again and enjoy it, because you're pulling it apart. And the other thing is, sometimes they put in temp music. Right? This is an issue for everybody. It's based on the director. Like I complained about Anthony Ferranti. He now temps the entire movie and gives it to me temped. I go, well, why don't you just use the temp? Because we can't afford that. So now you gotta like do something kind of like what he wants, but do your own thing. So this is the.
Also, you have to, it's, you know, when you watch a movie, like if you're thinking, oh, I'm hearing the music, if you don't want, I mean, your music is so strong in everything you write, but a lot of the scenes you're writing for, you don't want people to be thinking about the music, right? You want to be thinking about what's going on. So
It's like John Carpenter has a couple catchphrases, you know, I work with him, so I know all the stuff. He says that music is the director's velvet glove. That's how you touch people without them knowing you're being touched. The other thing he says is the music score is like carpet. It just goes under the whole scene and gives you something to walk on. So you know, a good score, you don't even notice it. It just goes past, and you're on the ride. You know, it's when you talk about the word art, the most simplest definition of art is a communication, and then you choose a medium. Well, the amazing thing about movies is every medium, writing, acting, directing, cinematography, monsters, everything, you're experiencing thousands and thousands of hours in 90 minutes. So it's like the finest whiskey. It's all been distilled and carved and crafted for that experience. So as a music person, we're like finished carpenters. It's already been built. We come in, we just make it pretty. So that's the deal.
Wonderful. When I take on a project, for me, it is so much easier for me to look at a book and say, this is the thing that will connect with the reader, because I come in with clear eyes. I'm not the writer who spent blood and sweat and heart and soul and tears to make this book. I'm not the editor who fell in love with it. I can come in with clear eyes like a reader. And it's so to be able to do that and then translate that into art that will make people say, oh, this is the kind of book I love. is just wonderful. But I always start by reading the book. It's how I get my arms around any project, because cool art is great, but that's not an excuse for a book cover. It has to be cool art in service of story. That's how I always start by reading the book.
Let's see. I'll talk about connection. For me, it's very important in my life with everything I do to make connections from my past to the present, future. And I look at a character, and I've been fortunate enough to have worked in a lot of different industries in my life. I was like a fly. My mom said, why don't you just land somewhere, but you're just darting around. Worked in hospitality, restaurants, doctor's offices, gas stations, like literally the gamut. And what that did for me, and I didn't realize it then, was it allowed me to observe a lot of different types of people. The types of people that work at gas stations are very typically different type of people that work in doctor's offices, right? And you get to learn a lot about the way that people operate. I observe everyone. That's just naturally what I do. And so when I see a character, I find out which part of my life I can relate that to, which group of people I can relate that to. I connect it, and I try to make moments in the script or for the character real to me, and I draw in that way. So I think that's the first thing that I look for.
Cool. Yeah, I think when I used to approach a show, it was always based on having some special character we were building, capable of running through the emotions like an actor would be able to. Something that is very, very small and very personal, it's something big and dangerous. And when you're obviously doing monsters, the big and dangerous part is what's more important than how subtle it can be. But there are times when building in and approaching what the creature does as an actor, there are many times where that early subtlety turns out to be very useful, because it's something that's brought on the set. And all during construction, the actor and the producers, the director and the producers have been looking at pictures and videos, so they know what it is. But when it's somebody that's new, somebody like we get on stage and we're now interacting with other actors, it's amazing to see how much they can see the subtlety of a performance, because it speaks to them on how they're playing a role. And then when it ranges to something that's big and bold, the producer and director have already seen it, so they know not to be misled into thinking that's the key point. It's a combination of what the director wants and what we're able to provide.
Excellent. Camden?
I'm a great believer in letting the script tell me what it needs. I really believe in that. And that's another reason why it's so great when you work with a really good writer, because, you know, so much of television and film scripts, you know, they don't really have a lot of description about a line reading. They don't really tell you about, you know. So, you know, you're playing with something, and I play with it. I get the script and I just play with it, you know, just play with it and play with it for days if it's possible. Not always possible, but if it's possible, I can do that for a couple days. And just an example of, like, you know, when I played the character Gnarl on Buffy, there was this part where he's going, you know, no one comes to save you. And I realized, oh, he's taunting her. I'm taunting her. I'm like, no one comes to save you. I realized it was almost a childlike kind of taunting.
You're terrifying our entire audience right now. Just gonna let you know.
But you know, she didn't say in the script, oh, do sort of a sing-songy kind of rhythmic kind of, you know, she didn't do it. There was none of that. It was just, I discovered that playing with it. And, you know, and I find there's so much about scripts that, you know, that if you really, like I said, if you really are open, a good script will really tell you what it needs. I really believe that.